Good morning. Okay. Our next speaker is Mr. Amado Alvarez. Let me expound a little on the background of one of the more prestigious curators and those that have been involved in the museum. Mr. Amado Alvarez started his involvement with the museum work as a volunteer in the Plenary. I hope you remember. Plenary Museum of Filipino way back in the mid-70s when he was still a college student at UP. In 1976, he was assigned to the newly established Metropolitan Museum of Manila, or MED, which was envisioned to showcase international visiting art exhibitions. He was at the Met until 1986 as an assistant director. In 1987, he spearheaded the establishment of the Philippine Association of Museums, Incorporated, or PAMI, of which he was a founding president. During all this year, he was the exhibition designer for the inaugural exhibition of the UP Vargas Museum in 1987. He was invited to rejoin the Philippine Museum in 2000 as a business and operations manager of the Ayala Museum until 2005. Currently, he is the museum administration of the Yucheco Museum at the RCBC building. He is also a member of the BENCAP Art Foundation and the Alliance of Greater Manila Area Management, or AGMAM. He is currently serving a second term as head committee on Museum or NOCOM under the subcommission on the cultural heritage of NCCA. Mr. Amado R. Alvarez, Museum Administrator, Yucheco Museum and Head, National Committee on Museums, Subcommission for Cultural Heritage, or National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Sir?
Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Unang-una ako'y nagpapasalamat sa mga officers ng UP Hispanos for taking the initiative to putting together a very important conference. The conference is very important for us at the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Aaminin namin na ang Natural History Museum ay wala sa aming radar. At dahil nga, kakauntinan natin ng Natural History Museum sa Pilipinas. But of course, I'm here to learn. Dahil nakita ko dun sa ating roster of participants na I'm talking to most scientists and very few museum workers. So I will try to introduce the museum concept to our scientist friends, and hoping that we will be able to do that, the museum as a platform so that we can inform our publics and the importance of our environment. So the task is towards an active program for natural history development. Okay, there are several definitions of museums, but right now I would like to list the international definition of museums under the International Council of Museums of the UNESCO. Why? I will read it through with you and say, a museum is a non-profit permanent institution in the service of society and in its development open to the public, which acquires, conserves, researches, communicates, and exhibits the tangible and intangible heritage of humanity and its environment for the purposes of education, study, and enjoyment. I need to emphasize that in all the definitions of museums, ito lang ang merong definition that it tells you about humanity and its environment. Otherwise, some of the definition unfortunately skips this very important sector, which is natural history. Therefore, we're saying that part and parcel of the umbrella of which we will work on will be tangible and intangible cultural heritage. And what is heritage in terms of the tangible component? We have built heritage, built environment, natural environment, and artifacts. more normally, what we will say is we will just look at the artifacts, right? And then find out, oh, there are structures, there are buildings, right? But we forget the component of natural environment. So today, this will be our focus in making sure that we are in the right direction and understanding the importance of natural environment, no? When we put together our museums. So what's the role of the museum? Hindi lang naman siya objects, no? Some things that you see and then you look at it and then you enjoy and you seem to understand the totality of how these things originate. So number one, the role of museums, you're custodian of heritage. In your purpose, you're the custodian of natural history, information, artifacts. We are a knowledge institution because basically anything that we do is founded on research. Of course, when we express something or we put together and put something on exhibit, people should understand what the exhibit is all about. Therefore, our mission is to make sure that the information about the object and the circumstances surrounding the object is understood by our audience. Then of course, it's not a matter of looking at an object. It is making sure that there's experience when you look at an object, right? And there are several ways of putting together experiences. We will learn that later in your sessions. There are several ways of now engaging your audience so that the experience becomes more memorable. When a student, not only a young student, but perhaps an adult as well, when they come into a museum, what will they experience? So things that are now experiential rather than literally informative. We are a creative hive or a creative hub. Dahil nga, a museum is a physical space and then you have an object. Therefore, the object and the physical space must converse. The conversation is the experience. That's why you see a gallery that is dimly lit, madilim siya, tapos meron isang object, tapos yung object yung naka-focus because it's trying to say something. Now, this creativity is in the field of exhibition design. However, there are objects also wherein artists are inspired to create works. That's why we have a lot of artists that have been doing artworks that show landscapes, that show birds, fish, fauna, and these are the things that are now being inspired, as inspiration rather. These objects now become the objects of the subjects of the different artworks or art pieces. This is the more important thing. We are not just there to show objects. These objects must be the agent of change. Specifically in our field of natural history, wherein there are a lot of things, issues on ground. When you show an object and you want to say, I have to be preserved, I am endangered, right? These are the things that you need to impart to your audience. It cannot be just the object there, its scientific name. It must tell you, I am dying, I will not be here for the next 5 years, I'll be gone. So these are the things that you need to inform your audience. And perhaps that is why this collaboration is very important. Now the issue or the challenge is how are you going to say this? The agent of change is something that I think primary in all natural history museums. Because you have to describe Earth today and tomorrow. The past is only a platform, but what you have to find out and how you are able to inform your audience is that paano ang bukas, right? So this is a very important role that perhaps natural history museums has a more important role other than different types of museums that we have. Therefore, let's look at a very simple heritage cycle. You come into the museum to enjoy. And then when you enjoy, because you have the thirst to understand. And the moment, by understanding, you'll be able to find value into these items or into these issues. And then when there's value, you want to take care. And then by caring, you will have people enjoy it. So this is the primary role of a natural history museum, right? We have to inculcate the component of your audience valuing and literally caring so that our environment is preserved. Okay. Most probably all of us know, and of course this is the thing that we always realize, that a museum is object-centered, right? As I said earlier, you have the object. Then the object has its all the information, right? The size, the scientific name, the year, where it comes from, etc. All of this important information. Therefore, the object must be interpreted. This is the problem wherein some of the curators cannot do this alone. This is where collaborative effort is put together so that you will know how to interpret and also point out the relevance of the object, right? Now, some objects, as I said, becomes controversial simply because they have a role to take. Therefore, what will the museum do? Normally, as I said, it's a dialogue, right? It's a conversation. Now, the conversation can be either just a dialogue or a debate. Especially if the issues is so crucial. And it is always important so that the audience will find value in your exhibit, is that they know that there is an ongoing debate. And the audience must know which side is the better side for all of us. Then again, that's where you have social responsibility, right? It's not only a good place to see good objects. It should really tell you, let's come together, let's protect our environment. So this is the shared social responsibility that perhaps the object can inspire us. Again, you have the object, right? And how about the audience? This is the critical issue wherein the audience must understand your object, right? Therefore, there is community consultation. A while ago, we heard from the National Museum that they have to build a committee of experts because that is their community, the community of scientists whom they will have to consult. Then they need to collaborate with the scientists. Then, not only do they collaborate, there is shared authority. Especially in science museums wherein information and data is very important. The attribution of certain things to whatever. There are all scientific processes. And I think this is where you come in. It's always a shared responsibility between the scientist and the curator or the exhibit person. Only if we have these elements that we have participatory governance. Here in the campus, you don't have a problem simply because your museums are under an entity, which is the university. Therefore, it already shares the responsibility with you regarding putting up programs. Both public. Your public is not only, sometimes people will say public is general public, but especially in this kind of setup, your public will be your students and your faculty, because this is a university museum. And then nagiging secondary na lang yung public, right? But saying these things doesn't mean that you talk Greek to your audience, diba? This is the more challenging thing is how do you now communicate with an ordinary audience who does not appreciate the complexities of science and sciences. So, a meaningful exhibition is only put together if you're able to put together all of these elements. Okay, now we're talking about the public. How do you now engage the public? How do you make people come into your museums, right? And this is the challenge of the National Committee on Museums. Simply because in the many years that it's been put together, there are very few instances wherein the Natural History Museum is represented. I will tell you later on how we can most probably solve this and come up with solutions so that the interface of our natural history museum colleagues are affected immediately under the NCCA umbrella. Therefore, I start with the World Heritage Site. I'm sure you're all familiar with this, and this is the program of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. And why am I saying this? This is the most, perhaps, familiar subject matter that an ordinary audience will take as top of his mind when he is asked, what do you know about a natural history museum? So this is the public appreciation. World Heritage Site. Yes. In the Philippines, we have been given the acknowledgement that 3 of our cultural sites are part of the World Heritage Sites, and 3 are natural. A very even playing field, tatlong cultural, tatlong natural. But again, this is already an indication how important natural environment is. There are 3 important natural sites in the Philippines wherein the United Nations is looking at it in terms of how it should be best preserved. Well, we're not talking about a static list. Under the Philippines, we have 19 in the tentative list of the World Heritage Site. And if you look at, I'm sorry, it's not as clear as I had expected it to be, but if you look at all of this will be shared with you anyway later, and you will see among the 19, only 4 are cultural assets. Most of them are natural assets. If you present this to anybody, they will always say how important natural environment pala it is in the Philippines. However, sino ang ating sounding board? Who will be the spokesperson so that all of these things are emphasized? It's the Natural Science Museum. So this is the situation here right now. There are so many things that we need to share with our public, but there are very few spokespersons, right? And as such, this is a challenge that we want to pose to our scientists. How do we now make museums the useful platform for this engagement? Okay, why therefore is natural history collections important? Because it transforms science education from passive learning into active exploration of the important relationship among environmental conditions, biodiversity, and human beings. The issues of climate change, the loss of biodiversity, the emerging pathogens, the threats to food security, environmentally induced health issues can be best explained through exhibits and education programs, rather than it becoming a cry. Why is it that people will just not look at posters simply because it is not engaging them? Perhaps exhibits will be the one that will be best used as an instrument so that we'll be better communicate these important issues to our public. Then it helps us understand the past and present biodiversity. Then it provides insight into the structure of past biological communities and how they are changed over time. Migratory routes, disappearing landscapes. These are the things that people will have to understand, especially now that urbanization has been encroaching at a fast pace that we are already losing most of our natural environment sanctuaries. And then of course, for us here in the UP system or any state university or private university, it's a good platform for collaboration through actual or virtual exchange of specimens, data, and scientific papers. Okay, ano ngayon ang role ng NCOM, right, to all of this? And the National Committee on Museums is one of the many committees under the National Commission on Culture and the Arts. And this is lodged under the Subcommission on Cultural Heritage. And fortunately, the National Committee on Museums is divided regionally. And there are regional sectors. We have 4 representatives from Luzon, 3 from Visayas, 2 from Mindanao, and 2 from Metro Manila. The national agency representatives, the National Museum, and the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Now, looking at it, Northern Luzon, you have the Northern Luzon Association of Museums, Central Luzon Association of Museums, Southern Luzon Association of Museums, etc. Okay, what happens is this, right? These regional associations are represented in the NCOM Executive Board. These regional associations meet regularly and they have elections, and one of the things that they have to do is also elect a representative of their regional association to the committee. Right now, we have 13 members. Of the 13 members, there's only one who is a member of the scientific community, and that is from Iligan, right? Otherwise, all of us are from either art museums, history museums, and what have you. So looking at this, you only have one representative. That's why this is an important meeting for you to understand that perhaps all of you should start looking at the opportunity of engaging yourself and finding out who are the regional associations in your area, and make sure that your museums become members of this regional association, so that anything on ground in terms of things that you want the National Committee on Museums to prioritize will be heard. Again, this is an issue. There is absence of your sector in the committee, and the absence can be best solved if your museums become members of these different regional museum associations. Okay? The National Committee on Museums, what is its role? The role is policy guidelines. We are not there to implement, we are not there to police. There are different other agencies in the government that does that. Policing can be attributed to the role of the National Museum, the National Historical Commission, but we are there to create guidelines. And this is the best opportunity for us to revisit our guidelines and say, where will we now fit the natural history museums into our guidelines? This is very crucial. That's why I think this conference is important for us, for you to understand, because anything that will come from the ground must be heard. The process is not the reverse, wherein we will tell you that this is the process. Now, if there are certain things that you feel should be the priority of the NCOM, it should be the community of museums and museum workers who should be able to emphasize this, right, through your regional associations. Then, of course, the one important thing is grants. We give grants annually, and normally the deadline of grants is August 31 for the coming year. Unfortunately, the deadline is already over. But again, what are the form of grants? The grants, we have museum capability training workshops. Therefore, you can now look at this as an opportunity wherein if you want to train your scientists to the field of museum work, there is capability training programs and workshops that are available as grants from the NCCA. We also have grants that will cover partially museum exhibition enhancements. Exhibits that are already ongoing, but you want to retrofit it, you want to make it more engaging, then you apply for the grant. We also have the establishment of non-existing museums and heritage centers, and of course, the enhancement of the museum, not only of the exhibit, right? Other than this, other than the grants and other than the policy role of NCCA, we also have the heritage data compilation. Now, cultural statistics is one of them. Right now, ongoing is the pilot program we're in. We are looking at the registry of museums around the Philippines. And again, we have already circulated this through our regional associations, wherein a form will have to be filled out by a museum so that they will be registered, so that from that registry we will know the depth and breadth of the type of museums we have in the Philippines. Again, sorry to say that there are very few natural heritage museums that are in the list. Cultural property registry, and then cultural mapping. I heard the bell, so I had to do this quickly. Okay, eto na yun. We hope to engage you so that we will know what to do the next steps. NCOM will have to be given this opportunity so that we will be able to incorporate the natural history museums into our fold. Therefore, perhaps what you should see is, why is it cultural heritage? And why is it not cultural and natural heritage? Kasi yung meaning ng cultural is so confining, right? Perhaps when I said the definition of the museum covers natural environment, perhaps this can be raised as an issue that we have to expand the consciousness and not limit it only to cultural. The promotion of natural history museum category in the Philippines, right? Through associations, through building up conferences, and the active membership of regional museum organizations of natural history museums. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. Okay, what is now important, as we have heard the earlier messages from the officers of the State University, is coalition of university museums. Because you need to be a body. So this body will now have a statement that we need to now look at natural history museums as an important component in cultural development of the Philippines. And then we have to now come up with guidelines for natural history collections. Now it becomes a national policy. All people will have to do is look at this policy and they will be able to know what are the steps to take so that they can put together a legitimate history, natural history collections. And more importantly, collaborative exhibit projects between cultural and natural sciences agencies. Again, therefore, your museum must have this little gallery that will be able to come up with regular exhibits that will also involve natural science agencies in the Philippines. I think I'm within the time. So that's it. Thank you.